Welcome to a brand new FTCR-ish discussion video. I don't have Chris and Steven with me this time, but I've got two other special guests, Ryan and Jack.
Hello.
Timing.
And so we're talking about, as you can see from the title and all this, we're talking about the second My Hero Academia movie.
Why do people feel the need to introduce the topic when they had to click on the video to get to the topic?
Exactly.
Staging, theming.
I don't know if you're aware, I'll put some links in the description. Me, Ryan, and Derek did two previous My Hero Academia discussions on this channel several years ago. We did one on the first two seasons, and then we did one on the third season and the first movie. So now we decided we come together, us two. Derek didn't see the movie, so I got Jack along with us, and then maybe in about a month or so, we'll probably end up doing another one on season 4.
Yep.
But now, yeah, let's jump in right to the movie. I think I'd probably easily say for both of us that we all thought pretty good. We really liked it. It's really great.
It was really great, except for the last tiny little bit.
Oh God,
we'll get to
Last
that.
5 minutes.
We'll get to that later. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It almost ruins the entire thing.
we'll get in all to that. But I'd say it's weird because I'm like, in some ways, I want to compare this to the first movie because they're both the movies, but also they're both radically different in their story and their approach and their kind of.
The first movie is standard filler stuff. This movie is, I don't know if you two were either aware, but this is loosely based off of Horikoshi's original ending.
His end, yeah, I did know about that. Yeah, that he, I think. The thing that happens at the very end, I'm pretty sure that's really the main thing that they took from his original ending draft. But the rest of it is just
probably.
That is. We jump in we jump into discussion. That isn't interesting, but I think it works very well to this. Is that compared to the first movie, which came out during season 3, and the plot of it jumped backwards to in between season 2 and 3. And while the manga was like so much far ahead, so it kind of had this issue of it being this big story that took place so far in the past, so to speak. So it's like there's that sense of it doesn't really matter as much to the story.
It wasn't that far in the past. It was just a convenient place to put it because they had a break.
Yeah, it was basically the case of like with both movies, they want to tell a certain story that they can only tell at a certain point. Like that one was about All Might and Midoriya being able to fight alongside each other, and you could only put it at that point in time.
Well, it's more that in universe you had a convenient 2-week stretch where nothing was going on before the entire plot of season 3 happens, and you can't take any breaks from that.
Yeah, now it's canon, quote unquote.
Well, I think in the manga they don't actually. I think in the manga that part is like I think less than a week. Like it's like the ending of season 2 to the beginning of season 3 takes place within the span of less than a week. But then in the anime,
it's about a week or two, considering they had to have some kind of break.
Yeah, because I do know like that ending, like that's all in the same chapter, so you can kind of be like you're reading the chapter and then you turn a page and it's like just insert a movie right there and then it goes on to the rest of the story. It's like in hindsight, it's kind of funny. Yeah, it's not intentional; it's just funny in hindsight.
Yeah.
I think it's a better approach than like the Dragon Ball movies where they just didn't give a fuck about continuity or whatever. Like,
the Dragon Ball movies were designed to be super abridged versions of the arcs they're representing.
Yeah.
For the most part. That's why the ones that don't represent arcs are way more standoutish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then now you have Heroes Rising, which it's coming out at the same time as season 4, but instead chooses to have its events take place jumping forward into season 5. Which
we're not really sure where this is going to fit in.
Well, the timing wise, we know it takes place after their.
Let's try not to do any manga spoilers. It takes place clearly after a certain point and before another, but that's kind of there's a big gap in time in the manga where this could happen in a lot of different points.
It's like to put it like just using arc terms, it takes place before the League of Villains arc, where they get their big whole like shining spotlight, and it takes place about directly after I mean, this is not really a spoiler per se, but it's after Bakugo and Todoroki get something.
Yeah, but there's still a big old gap in time between those two things happening.
Yeah, it's basically when you're reading the manga, the League of Villains are doing something, and it takes place during that period of time. Yeah,
more or less.
Yeah, but yeah, so the fact that it jumps in, and there's a lot of little like this. The anime does a lot of. What I really like is that there are a lot of little things that reference stuff that happen like in the manga at that current time. Which, if you're aware, for the most part, they don't really are like big. They're not really big plot points, and they're not really big spoilers per se. They're just kind of there is one thing which we'll get into later that I did think that that I think is kind of a spoiler for people who don't know about. But a lot, like say for example, Tokoyami, you see him like using Dark Shadow to fly around, and that's something that he does that he learns to do like a little bit before in the manga.
The only real spoiler character stuff going on is purely Hawks, and that's only because we haven't seen him before.
Yeah.
And it more or less beats you over the head with what he's actually supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
thanks for that. I mean, I'm a manga reader, so I don't care, but
yeah, even Hawks is still it's kind of vague if you don't know who Hawks is, but if you know him, it's very obvious.
Mm. I mean, did Hawks really need to be in this movie? I mean, I get like it takes place like in the future, but like it could have just been like a Endeavor or something.
I don't see why Hawks needed to be there. You easily could have had some other hero.
The reason is because Horikoshi and the animation team love Hawks so much they wanted to like get him out like ASAP.
I know, but it's like, you didn't need to put him there.
Mm-hmm. I also did like again like the movie helped in hindsight to kind of clarify some things that are happening in the current manga. Like Nine's whole existence kind of retroactively confirms what's going on. Like again, I'm not going to spoil exactly, but Nine's whole reason of being is like, oh, so that's what's going on right now.
Thanks, Dr. Eggman.
I'm kind of disappointed that I know they had already cast that guy because it's the same guy who showed up in the first episode of the series, and it's like you already had him. But I'm like,
Mike Pollock.
Could you have maybe gotten Mike Pollock because the dude in the manga like literally goes ho ho ho, ho and is like this crazy mad.
Well, he's not so much before. Okay, we're again not even talking about the movie at this point, but he's not like super Eggman-y at first. Like in that first episode, or like the two other times you see him before.
Yeah.
But then, like once he becomes plot relevant, like the first panel you see him, it's like, oh no, that's just Dr. Eggman. Like straight up, it's just like Dr. Eggman lowers his goggles. That's fucking Eggman. Anyway, the movie. Where do you want to start exactly? Because we start with We start with a chase scene, and the chase scene was okay.
Mm.
It felt a little long on the tooth, if only because they got the League of Villains involved in twice as quirk being doubles, but it's also like, if you're just going to have them break out anyway, what's kind of the point?
I think that's mostly just for cameo being is like, we want to have the League of Villains in here in some way.
Yeah,
so
you want to have fan favorite Dobby do a thing.
You want to have Dobby and Endeavor have a little fight to kind of be more hint hint, nudge nudge, wink wink,
I guess.
And then you do all of that stuff, and then it jumps right forward into like the main plot of the movie, which is the kids have been assigned to go and protect and basically act as the hero agency for like this island where mostly just small stuff happens.
Yeah,
or not even small stuff. They said that a local hero retired. And so I guess they figured that was a good place to just send the kids for beach vacation stuff.
or hopefully not get hurt again.
Yeah.
I think that represents probably the film's strongest point is the fact that, again, unlike the first movie, which kind of only focused on half the class and had the other half kind of resigned to just cameos, in this one, it's pretty much all mainly focused on Class 1A. Like, there are obviously more characters that get more attention than others, but pretty much everybody gets at least one moment to stand out.
Yeah, Koda and Tora?
Toru. Koda at least has...
Don't get to too much.
Koda at least has one, like, he has at least one moment where he does something really useful. But yeah, Toru doesn't do. There is a moment where Toru is like, she's with, like, she has a chance to fight, but she doesn't do anything. And I'm like, why do you've only done one thing in this entire series?
Yeah. Yes, some definitely get more than others, but everyone's at least there on screen. So
yeah,
that's at least something. Something I wish was a missed opportunity that would have been really funny, because this takes place during the winter, but they go south to a tropical island. I would have loved a cutaway where it's like One Piece up in Hokkaido or something, and they're just freezing their asses off. Like they're doing something similar, but it's like way up north, and they just hate it. I thought that would have been a funny gag, but waste of time, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that would have been their way of like inserting some more characters in. But I guess they wanted like even like the cameo characters, they want to limit it in a certain way. Because like we got all of Class 1A, we got a couple of our kind of major supporting characters here and there, and then we have a few of the cameos, and it's like that's good enough. That's a good number of people.
Yeah,
and then you have. And then we can probably jump into the two kind of main supporting characters, Maharo and. Shit, why am I blanking on the name? It's Cat. I keep
Bratty girl.
Katsuma. It's Maharo and Katsuma. That's who it is.
Katsuma, yeah, that's what it was. I mean, comparatively, I like them more than... Oh, go ahead. Discord, talking. I like them more than Melissa. I thought they had, like, a better arc?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Melissa has a lot more agency over her own situation, mostly just because she's older, which is nice. I guess character-wise, Maharo and Katsuma are a little bit more interesting. The problem is they really went out of their way to try to force the Katsuma is in Deku's position kind of mini arc going on. But A, he's nowhere near old enough to do anything with that, because he's like, what, 6?
Yeah.
Or something. And 2, it's like, oh, my quirk isn't good for being a hero, and it's like, oh, no, you too can be here. It's like, he has a healing quirk. You see at the end of the movie. It's like, no, that's not really how it works. It's like, it's okay, it's not strictly healing, it's cell activation, so maybe he could be like a support hero. But it's like, you have other avenues to work with heroes, kid. So I feel that mini plot line was kind of undeserved.
I feel like My Hero Academia's kind of whole mission statement in general is that anyone can be a hero if they want to. It's like they like say, oh, his power isn't as compatible to be the quote unquote a definition of a hero compared to others. But if you work at it and you make advantage of your situation, you can very well do. You very well do.
Yes, I get that, but it's one of those. He's clearly hinting at the, you know, what Midoriya and Bakugo do. You know, zip around, you know, protect people, stop bad guys, that sort of thing. And it's like, not quite.
Again, the whole thing's that he's 6, so it's like he's 6, and like you know that's his power, and that's how he uses it right now. So it's just when he gets older,
it's like maybe, or he could like do something else with it. Like there's other avenues. I just feel like that arc was a little undeserved just because of how this character was set up. But they're okay. They're at least trying to do something with regards to the heroes being around. Although I felt the opening, while fun, dragged a little bit because, like you said, they did have Koda do something here. They had a few others do something, and it's like, okay, it's nice that they're on screen and actively doing something, but this definitely feels like we clearly don't know what we're going to actually do with them when it comes time to fight. So here's your moment.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, like 3 of them just stand around in the cave for the whole thing.
Yeah, Koda and Toru.
And was Sugar Man, yeah.
Sugar Rush. He is the least important character in 1A.
I mean, he could have done something. He could just like punch a guy and then get blasted away like everybody else until that final boss.
I guess, but it's like, it's just one of those, why are you here when everyone else is better than you?
At least he has more of a personality than Toru.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, at least he, like, everybody has at least someone. They have either have an interesting design or somewhat of a personality, and Toru has none of those.
Well, she can't have a design.
Can't have it.
I guess she has her one joke, but that's about it.
And then so you get all that. I do like that a lot of the major themes of this movie is kind of representing of something that was referred to in the series, which is Midoriya and Bakugo's kind of dueling ideologies of save by winning and win by saving.
Yeah, that was really nicely done here. The other major thing I'm glad that they finally went into is kind of the theme of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Because even up through the manga at this point, I mean, not necessarily not the manga, the anime, our 1A kids haven't really been responsible for a lot of their actions. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, or like putting themselves in danger, or like all that jazz.
Or if something goes wrong, the pro heroes can just sweep it under the rug or whatever.
Yeah. So there's like an active reason.
Yeah, it was nice to see them actually be like, oh shit, we're actually in charge here.
Yeah, it's a really good thing of seeing, especially because by putting the story so much further ahead, they're at probably not their most experience, but one of their most experienced. So in comparison to the other previous battles or the first movie, where they're still kind of getting used to the idea of being heroes and getting adjusted to their quirk, now they're pretty much all super confident in their abilities, and they just kind of jump in, do their jobs, helping people, kind of getting their priorities straight. And it's really satisfying to see kind of the characters like kind of knowing what they need to do and just being able to jump at it.
For sure.
It makes it's very rewarding for people who have been following the series because again, you've been seeing these characters grow in like bigger or small ways, and to kind of see that like pay off in a major way.
Yeah, we don't have to hear like somebody say like, "Oh, wait for the pros," or "You're not allowed to engage because of your quirk" for like the 50th time.
And I will say that this is probably one of my favorite portrayals of both Midoriya and Bakugo. Because I feel like even the manga, like both their characters by themselves and also their relationship together. Because I feel like even the manga itself kind of delves into a bit more of the Bakugo is the angry jerk who doesn't care about anything, and he's just an asshole just for the sake of it. And Midoriya is a bit too whiny and unconfident about himself. But in here, he's completely straight faced. He's always smiling when he's talking with Katsuma. He acts very like strong and it's kind of like you look back at his like even in the first movie and you compare it to this, like you just see how much he really has grown. He's kind of taken on that, not exactly the All Might style, but he's definitely getting closer to that. And even Bakugo is like he's like nowhere near his like super dick status that he is a lot of time. He's like he'll yell and do like he'll still yell. He'll do kind of his like dick statements, but he'll like know when not to do it in certain ways, and he'll know he'll work together alongside people. Especially by now, he's learned to being able to work alongside people.
One thing I'm glad that they also do with Midoriya is that while he obviously doesn't get angry, he does get stern with other characters at points, and it's like, okay, good, you're not going to be just a wet towel whenever anyone tries to kind of get in your way about things. It's like, no, it's like, again, he doesn't get angry, but, whatever her name is, she's causing problems. Okay, being nice is good and all, but she's also a little kid. You kind of have to be stern with them sometimes, or, hey, the big battle's kind of happening. This isn't a time to be, wishy-washy about things.
Yeah.
So that was definitely nice to see of him not be all weak-willed in a lot of senses.
Yeah, you can see how his like his passing dealings with both Kota and Eri have allowed him to be able to handle both Maharo and Katsuma really well.
Definitely.
He has his own kind of squad of fanboys now and fangirls.
Should we move on to our villains of this movie, I guess?
Yeah.
Talk about them a little bit. I find them pretty weak, all things considered.
Miles better, at least, than the two heroes ones.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily saying much.
Yeah.
Like I would put them above that, but they're still they're weak movie villains as far as personalities go. To give at least a little bit of credit, Johnny Young Bosch held back on his Johnny Young Boshness for like 90% of the movie.
until he goes full Broly.
Yeah, not necessarily even full Broly, is full Zero more like it.
True.
Because like he's fine until he has to start screaming.
Mm-hmm.
And then he screams, and it's like, oh, right, it's Johnny Young Bosch, right?
9, I think, is like, yeah, because I mean, Wolfram is basically the only interesting about him is his final fight and the fact that he's voiced by Shido. And it's like, that's the only thing. It's like, oh, it's Shido / Vector, and that's kind of funny. And then he has a pretty cool final fight. But as a character, he's just kind of a blank slate. And then
he's a whole, this world is prejudice thing, and it's like, we have fucking frog people and invisible girls and people with muscly tails, and it's like, people aren't really gonna care. You probably
not the most nuanced take.
You.
9, I'll at least say that. I don't think. Yeah, it's not perfect just because he's relegated just one movie, so he's not able to really go full on. But I think as a force of nature, I think he works really well as like a force of nature and as just an inherent threat.
He's fine as a fight. The problem is he's very discount all for one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's
like, unless the manga decides to kind of pull a bit of a bait and switch, you're not going to have Midoriya and Bakugo fight all for one. So this is kind of our chance to do that without really doing that.
Yeah, pretty much. I do kind of think it's interesting. Like, the movie doesn't really go too much into it, but I kind of think like the idea that 9 is obsessed with creating this kind of chaotic world where only the strong quirks and strong people can survive.
Oh boy, I haven't seen that in anime before.
I think. Well, the thing I think that makes him like not different, but I think it makes his interesting in hindsight is that he himself is not powerful enough to survive in this world he wants to create. He's like, his body can't handle the quirks, so he needs to go do experiments in order to take a superpower that will allow him to steal other people's quirks and like make himself stronger. Like, the whole idea is that he's not strong enough to create this like idea. So it's kind of it's that hypocritical like villain thing that I think is kind of interesting and would have been really good if they would. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting if they had far more time to deal with them.
Yeah.
Because, aside from that potential, which you have to read into.
Mm-hmm, yeah, that's why I said in hindsight, I think that, but I know it's not completely.
Yeah, the movie doesn't show that or care about that all that much. It's just there to be a discount all for one.
Mm-hmm. The characters don't even know what his plan is until literally the last 10 minutes, where he's just kind of mumbling about it, like, "What? That's what you're doing, you idiot!"
Yeah,
and then the girl is just like the most unimportant thing ever. She doesn't even get a team battle. It's just her against Tokiyami for a little bit, and then Mina gets stabbed.
Yeah, I will say
we'll get to the fights to the end, I guess.
I'll say at least Slice, Chimera, and Mummy, at least, even though they're not super like important, like great characters, I think they have cool. Yeah, they have cool quirks. They do what Horikoshi's really good at, which is having interesting quirks and really cool design. Like, they're memorable designs.
Except Slice. I don't think Slice was good. They needed to retool her and what she could do. She was really basic and boring, which is probably why she got relegated to a one-on-one fight. Because if there was really more than one person against her, she would have lost easily, I think.
Yeah, and she's Needle Medusa, basically.
Yeah. So plot-wise, 9 is trying to find a healing quirk or a cell activation quirk to basically heal himself up so he can just do his thing, which leads to the island conveniently that the heroes are on.
Timing.
Yeah, timing. Once shit kind of hits the fan, the movie kind of feels not necessarily rushed, but feels a bit disjointed. Because, like a lot of movie shonens, you have the first fight against the villains when they show up. Because, again, these are battle shonen, they don't care about the plot too much. They just want to get to the fights. So you have it with, like, to an extent with, like, Broly, or the Naruto ones do this a lot. One Piece does it fairly often in the movies where, oh, hey, we have the big villain, and they show up, and then they whoop the floor with our heroes, but I'll get you next time, Batman, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the heroes come back even stronger than ever and beat them. So, to give them a little bit of credit, they had the fights very differently compared to what they fight later. So you have, like, Ojiro and Todoroki and Ida. I guess it's mostly just Ojiro, like, on the Chimera guy first. So there are other characters fighting other ones they don't fight later, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's essentially just, it's those guys who are fighting Chimera where it's like, they have to fight him. They're trying to figure out, like, what his deal is, like, how he do it, and at the same time trying to protect the people that they're trying to save behind them.
Yeah.
And then you have, Bakugo and Bakugo, Kirishima, and Kaminari fighting Mummy, and then, then Midoriya, and then later also Bakugo fighting Nine for the first time. And that's all, and that's also seen, like, when you, because it starts with just Midoriya fighting Nine, and that's when you get the revelation that he could steal One for All, but he can't because of the other thing.
Yeah, that's like the one plot thing that doesn't make sense if you aren't caught up with the manga.
Yeah,
that's something that related to the manga I hate.
I mean, I like it in relation to the manga, but I do think that is kind of like the major spoiler. I mean, the movie says it, so it isn't really a spoiler to talk about it here. But the fact that One for All is not only alive, but the fact that it contains the 6 other quirks from the previous successors,
which is really stupid to me, but whatever.
I don't think I think it makes sense in the relation to the universe, but at least I think that's a pretty big
logically it makes sense. Just thematically, I think it's stupid.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, overall I do think like that's something that I get why like you need to do that for the story, but it's it's also in a sense that for people who haven't caught up to this part in the manga, it's like that was a pretty big like surprise like reveal, so it's like they don't dwell on it too much, so maybe you're not paying attention if you're just seeing this movie the first time, but it's like you're probably gonna catch gonna catch on,
like, hey, here's this thing.
Like you don't see like Midori doesn't use the one power that he had manifested by this point, so it's like you have that. Yeah,
they clearly had to hold back on that so it wouldn't be a spoiler.
Yeah, not a full spoiler, but yeah. But yeah, I do think their at least their first fight is really well. Yeah, I think all the fights in the movie are really well done, and that first one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, Midoriya, Bakugo, and Nine is like because they do a lot of cool things because they're showing off like what exactly Nine can do, and also seeing like it's good because there's kind of the like how between the two fights because the first fight is just showing them trying to work together and just kind of halfway going there, and then when you get to the second fight later, it's them fully working together. So you're showing you're showing that kind of growth in the fight scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I always like when Bakugo just gets kicked off his high horse and these kind of things. It's nice to see him act different when like shit hits the fan. He's like, "Oh fuck, I got to be a character now."
Well, his brashness is usually well deserved. Is more the thing. It was weird in the movie because he had to have Deku and All Might do it, but Bakugo wins most of the fights he takes part in, as far as the series goes. So it's well deserved, at least as far as he knows he's a good fighter, and his attitude about that is earned.
Yeah,
I don't like when people like, "Oh, he's such a hotshot," and thinks he's so full of shit. It's like, no, he's pretty easily overall the most powerful character in Way. In terms of raw combat ability.
Yeah, well, I think the whole thing was with him, it's more so like in terms of fighting, like fighting and raw power, but at least like at the beginning, it's like he kind of lacked on technique a bit, and it's like over the course of the series, been kind of like figuring out what his weaknesses are, and most of that was like his techniques. Like by now, he's kind of grown a bit more of like, okay, no, this is what I need to fix. This is what I need to fix.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's knocking him off his high horse. It's more both Deku and Bakugo hitting a wall they can't really just brute force past.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I felt was a little awkward is them coming up with kind of sidelining Momo and Kaminari at that point after the initial fights, which I felt was a little awkward because Momo's using her creation quirk to create supplies and Kaminari's charging a bunch of like generator batteries and stuff, which is fine, but they immediately say, "Oh, we're gonna have we're made a drone because Momo can do that, and send it to the mainland and ask for help." Okay, you do not need all that stuff if you're calling for help, and they'll be here by tomorrow. It'll be nice, but it felt like there was like, okay, these two characters aren't necessarily the most action oriented, so let's make them useful, but not necessarily engaged in combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like
it's a little bit time to shine, but not by much.
Yeah. Well, Kaminari gets a decent payoff, but
that one made me laugh. I was like, oh shit, that's right, he's still in this movie.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing that it works in like a sense of, because it's like, yeah, because you see that happen and you're like, wait, you're like, oh, that makes sense. You're kind of like hitting yourself, like, why didn't you think about that? It's like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, wait, because you're that whole time you're like, you're not even thinking about, oh yeah, there's so many characters. You're like, okay, who didn't get their time in the spotlight yet? And it's like, oh yeah, he didn't. So when it finally happens, it's like, oh yeah, it's such a thing, because it's like, it shouldn't be a twist, but it ends up being a twist in a way. Like I like whenever they end up doing that. It's like they kind of tricking the audience with their kind of short-term memory.
Yeah. It's a little. This is kind of where the plot really kind of shines through compared to other anime movies, because again, I brought earlier where 1A is like, oh crap, we're actually, fully in charge here. We're the ones making the decisions. This whole island is looking to us, which is something we hadn't seen in the series before, which was a nice change of pace compared to, let's have All Might take care of it, or let's have Aizawa take care of it, or have Endeavor take care of it.
Yeah, the plot of ultimately the plots of the movies aren't really the important thing. The important thing is the characters and their kind of interaction with each other, their development, their growth.
Yeah, that's
what
where
they do in action. Yeah,
that's where the movie shines the most. I feel, is the character interactions, at least as far as how they become a little bit later in the manga. Because it was very refreshing to see. Because anime wise, we're in the middle of season 4, and most of 1A hasn't had much a chance to do anything this season. So it was very refreshing to see, at least as far as that goes. Any other particular parts before we go to the big climactic and in ways a little overly long action sequences?
Let me see. Yeah, because the movie it's fairly like easily split into three acts. The first act, which is just them on the island, just kind of taking care of stuff. The second act, which is when Nine and his crew kind of show up and do that first kind of big battle, and then ending with like them kind of like figuring out what to do. And then the third act, which is just the whole big plan, which is everybody in Class A kind of gets in their position to essentially slow down, not like protect Katsuma, and slow down Nine just to tire him out, so that then eventually Midori and Bakugo can beat the shit out of him while he's weak.
Mm-hmm. So anything before we get that last part?
I like Big Deku. Just the big. That guy, especially in the super serious scene.
Yeah, that was something a little weird. There wasn't a lot of humor in this movie.
I was just about to say, I think Two Heroes is probably the funniest single like thing in the entire series, anime manga wise, because there's just so many really good jokes in that. While this movie, it didn't really have that many super funny moments. It had that scene. It had the Kaminari thing. It had a few chuckles here and there, but it wasn't super fun. I liked at the beginning when they're like, oh yeah, Bakugo, you're going on night duty, and they're like, what? It's like, you didn't do anything the whole day. It's like, in my theater, every time Bakugo said anything, the entire theater laughed. They all, no matter what he said, everybody laughed because they all.
Yeah, I was there on opening night, and there was a lot of hooting and hollering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I do think that it doesn't. It doesn't. It's not a huge problem. I think enough of the movie is the movie is obviously going for that more heroic, stoic, overall approach to the characters and what their situation.
Yeah, action adventure oriented, and less
But I feel like once Nine showed up, the movie didn't really have a chance to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
From that regard, which isn't a problem because I prefer more heavy kind of stuff. So, I was perfectly fine with that. I just know that some people may not necessarily enjoy that. They may feel a bit worn down after a while.
Yeah, they had enough humor and kind of there's that breathing room of the characters, kind of both the heroes and the villains kind of resting up and trying it's not super long, but it's enough that you can kind of be like, okay, this is what's going on.
I'm saying there's a difference between breathing room and levity.
Yeah,
true.
I guess there could have been another scene where oh, maybe they hint that Deku's gonna do the thing that happens at the climax or something like that. Yeah, I feel like it made it a little bit more palpable, but not too much.
All right, so then we move to the big climax. So we have Tokoyami versus I guess we got rid of Mummy during the middle fight, because Bakugo just whooped his ass, which it's a little underwhelming because he had Kirishima and Kaminari there, and they kind of didn't do anything.
Yeah, I guess they're like, oh, we want to simplify this plan even further, so we'll just get rid of him and just kind of throw him to the side. Already.
Yeah, but it's like that was like the only part I was like, you could have just cut this character in the sequence altogether.
Yeah,
because it's like, oh, he has this thing with Bakugo, and then Bakugo just like breaks out super easily, and then whoops his ass.
Yeah,
so.
I guess like something to like minorly inconvenience him before he has to run off for 9 fight or whatever.
Yeah. So that's like the only thing I would say probably should have been cut. But so we have Tokoyami versus Hair Girl, and Mina's there.
With Wolverine claws.
Yeah, that was I know it's in the manga, but it's just one of those. Yeah, this still doesn't look right.
I love that, like it's all the little things, like the little like both subtle and kind of like obvious references in the fights with what the characters do that I
really
appreciate. Like Mina's using her dancing skills to kind of jump and avoid slices.
But Mina didn't do anything.
She didn't do much. Well, she burned off her hair. That was something she did
eventually, but well, she burned off some of it. It didn't really stop her. That was the thing.
Yeah,
all you did was make her kind of piss, and then Mina gets stabbed by the hair, and then that causes Tokoyami to freak out, and that's like, okay.
Yeah, we do get to see Evil Dark Shadow again. That was cool to see.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, we had some more revelry in the dark.
Revelry. I really liked Todoroki, Ida, Sue, and like all their fights with Chimera.
Yeah, that was pretty.
That's
what Todoroki actually did.
I feel that one was a bit. I feel that fight was more earned than the one against 9. Because it was all their natural abilities and them kind of more naturally working together to defeat Chimera.
The ending of Todoroki's ending of that fight is like one of the most brutal things I've seen in this entire series. Yeah. And I'm like, how is he not dead?
Well, that's that's another thing that, again, is as someone who prefers more heavy stuff, that I'm glad they went there, because it's not something you do on broadcast anime a lot, especially for, hip shonen properties that are on Prime TV slots, is that everyone gets fucking wrecked in this movie.
Nobody dies.
It's brutal.
No one dies, but everyone gets like badly injured. It's not like anime, oh, they have some scuff mark lines, or they have the cut above their eye that they wipe once and it's totally fine. It's like, no, they got their shit wrecked.
I think this is kind of it's not a big issue, but it's kind of a minor issue even in the regular series, is that so many of the characters take so bad, not only take so bad at beatings, but their powers are kind of like such to a great scope that I'm like, how like anytime Todoroki uses ice, that's so powerful and so spiky, and I'm like, how are you not killing anybody? And it's just like, oh, he just either misses or they're just strong enough to hold it back.
Yeah,
that's just a little bit of that's just creative license with how powers work. I'm more talking about, people get punched through the trees, and it's like, oh, I'm so injured, and it's like, but you look totally fine. You just have like some scuff marks on your face or something. Yeah, or they have like the one cut that's like bleeding to show, oh, this is serious, and it's like, no, that's like a paper cut.
Yeah, that whole fight with Chimera, all of them like get completely decimated and like just.
Yeah, so I appreciate the movie taking advantage of the fact that, oh, this is on broadcast TV, we can actually have people get like legit injured.
Even though there isn't like a lot of blood, like I think Midori and Bakugo bleed a lot, but like the rest of the characters don't bleed that much. They just have their scrape marks.
Yeah, but it hits harder, and two, there is more blood because Sue and Ida get hit hard at the 2 points. Kirishima obviously does his, unbreakable thing.
Mina gets stabbed.
Mina bleeds.
Yeah, Mina gets stabbed. No, I think Ochako doesn't bleed, but she gets tossed around pretty hard.
Yeah, she gets smacked around.
So, yeah, that was something I think the honest at least I wasn't prepared for at all. Because there was like a lot of gasping when like, oh, Chimera smacks Sue and Ida together, and like their heads like audibly like crack and blood comes out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember that. I do.
Go on.
Yeah, I think the plan that they come up with is really, it's kind of like, yeah, they're like, they even reference that in the movie, is that it's kind of like a tower defense, where it's just that they have their characters all kind of lined up, like, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do this, and they're basically trying to slow down basically this unstoppable like force that's just pushing everything out of the way. It's just keep slowing him down, keep making him used to, like, it's not even like they're fighting him, they're just trying to
drain his they're trying to drain his batteries, which works for the most part. But it's one of those, okay, this is an anime movie, it's about Deku and Bakugo. We know it's going to come down to those two saving the day anyway. So while it is interesting, it is interesting to see them like enact their plan and have it, for the most part, work. It's like, okay, it worked, and then we do the big climax super boss thing, and it's like, okay, so it really wouldn't have mattered anyway, would it?
It is at least like it's a different approach, yeah, because ultimately it's about like the storytelling in the, like, you're showing the characters like what they've done and like how they've grown and being able to handle all these like different jobs and essentially kind of sacrifice each other one by one. And so it's seeing them all like work together in this way to execute this very complicated plan. I think that alone is like, it's not just simply does it work, does it not work, it's just seeing them incorporate it this well. It's like that's what's the most enjoyable to watch.
It's certainly enjoyable. It's just
a little superfluous.
It's a little superfluous, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, it could have been tweaked a little bit, like have those glowy purple things mean more on Nine's back. It's like, okay, so they use up all that. Use up all that stuff. So
super drugs.
Yeah, so it's like they do it in that way. So doing that, like, they should have explained more what those things do, so training them means more.
Yeah.
Compared to, oh, hey, we made him use his powers and he's feeling sick and all this stuff, but, oh, it's time for Deku and Bakugo to fight the super boss, which, okay, he couldn't have just done from the start, I guess.
It's ultimately, it's the whole shonen anime fight. I mean, like any superhero kind of fight thing where it's like, character, they seem defeated, but they're like, I have nothing to lose anymore.
This isn't even my final form.
Boom! Time for weeping angel of death. Boom.
Yeah. So, like I said, that could have used a little bit of tweaking, but overall, it's still really good. I guess to get to like the actual super boss part of it, this is after like literally everyone else has been wiped out.
The two elephants in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, that was weird because Bakugo and Deku are basically like completely out of it, and they're like hanging by their thing. And then, oh crap, Tentacle Arms guy, Shoji.
Yeah, Shoji. Yeah.
Shoji and Jiro come out, and it's like, what the fuck are you two going to do?
Like, oh yeah, we're here too, guys. Oh,
yeah, it's like, oh yeah, these two are here, and they're technically supposed to be useful. So let's have them come out to try and save the two heroes, and then just get their shit wiped. Like, okay.
I did like seeing Shoji at least. Like, Shoji did a lot to like try and like help in like protecting them. Like, kids, utilize, yeah. It's like that was something I was like, yeah, because Shoji doesn't really do a lot in the series, so stuff like that. It's like I like seeing like those characters that don't get as much attention, like Ojiro fighting Chimera, even though he gets his ass kicked, just seeing him kind of utilizing his tail powers and like his fighting skill, just even if it doesn't do a lot, it's still something to be like, oh, that's really cool to see.
Yeah. He at least got he gets more than Sugar Rush, but even I'm like, Ojiro, you're just kind of here, aren't you?
He's playing, but he knows it.
Yeah, at least he's aware. Yeah, so everyone gets their shit wrecked, and
Midori and Bakugo are trapped, and Nine's about to get Katsuma, and Midori's like, the only way we can beat him is dueling one for all. So he transfers it to Bakugo, and they become Super Saiyans. And then the fight becomes basically just Broly. Just becomes the ending Broly fight.
Yeah, just amazing animation, no audio.
Better animation, beautiful. I would say, compared to Broly, a little bit less impactful fight-wise.
Yeah.
If only because we've had a lot more history with Broly, even though that was technically his first canon, quote-unquote, appearance.
Mm-hmm.
So Broly had like that 20 years of lead-up to that movie, if that makes a bit more sense.
I think Broly hit more just because it was out first, so it's like you're gonna end up even if it's inadvertently, you're going to be comparing that to that. So it being the original is like, yeah, that's still kind of the height of this kind of thing. But this is like, it is so like it is. There's the colors are just
Deku
so
just like turning into a mirror. It's great, but
Bakugo just touching a wall and just it completely inversing onto each other. Just Nine sprouting his angel wings, completely decimating the island with a fire tornado. It gets to a certain point that you're like, I don't really care that it's kind of that it is completely a cop out, and that after it's going to be a cop out. Just the fact that we got to see this in just the insane level degree, and I'm like, I'm satisfied. I'm glad because the whole time watching this big battle, I'm like, yeah, I thought this big battle was pretty good, but the whole All Might and Midoriya fighting the final boss in 2 years, I'm like, are you going to be able to beat that? And then this happened. I'm like, okay, they beat that. Fuck.
Yeah. Well, there's a bigger payoff with having Bakugo do it than compared to All Might.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of that All Might's kind of there for like the fans, where it's like, oh, it's them doing a thing. That's nice.
Yeah.
One for all, Bakugo is literally just a Super Saiyan, and it was so distracting.
Pretty much the hair up and everything, yellow.
Yeah, they both started. It was weird because One for All doesn't. I mean, yeah, One for All doesn't really do that.
Well,
or it's like suddenly their hair started glowing and it just went way more spiky, and it's like,
I guess it was trying to be visual.
I mean, it looked really cool, but
isn't that what happened with Midoriya using when he was using Eri in the overhaul fight? Like he looked that same way. Like that was him using 100%.
It was 100%, but I also took that as a bit of Eri using her power on him, kind of half causing that.
I know this is kind of like a weird like side thing, but I know in My Hero 1 Justice 2, one of the characters you can play as is the 100% One for All Deku that he does when he fights Overhaul, and he doesn't have Eri on him, but he looks the same. So I think that, especially with that and now the movie, I think that's what canon 100% One for All Deku looks like.
So it's Super Saiyan, I guess.
And they both look like like fan drawings of like the characters as like young adults. It's like that's what they suddenly look like they aged like 5-6 years when they went like that. And I'm like, that looks weird. It looks off. Their character design looks kind of off.
Bakugo with hair up or being able to see his forehead.
They're drawn with more lines was more the thing,
mm-hmm.
and that kind of gives it a more comic booky feel compared to anime.
I'm glad I didn't read because I had purchased the Volume Rising novel. I ordered that from Japan to go with just because I wanted to like read through that. I'm glad I didn't completely read through it because in there has Horikoshi's drawings of One for All Bakugo. So I'm like, I'm glad I didn't look at this book before I watched the movie because I'm like, I would have been spoiled majorly.
Yeah, when that happened in the movie, everyone just kind of like. Again, it's a bunch of weeps, so they're like all gasping and hollering.
Holy fuck!
Yeah, kind of.
Like that was the whole reason for this movie. Is like you said, not only for Midoriya and Bakugo to fight all for one, but to give. I think that was probably the original ending of the series. Is that Midoriya gives Bakugo One for All, and they both dual wield Super Shigaraki, probably.
Yeah, and then that's kind of just the end of Deku's journey, which obviously they can't do now. But
yeah. But it was really cool and visually interesting. As I was watching it, I was just sitting there, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, this is great, but how are they going to undo this? And then it happens.
That's always the nagging feeling. It's like, this is an anime movie, nothing is allowed to stick.
Yeah, even if it's, like, impactful and, like...
Yeah, there's two things they had to undo. Well, there's only one thing they really had to undo, but they undid another thing for no reason.
Which didn't... That's...
Because... Okay, so they punched Johnny Young Bosch into the sky, and then all is well, but Deku obviously gave up One for All, so he's not going to have it anymore. And then it's like, oh, miraculously, he still has it. And it's like, okay, that I don't really mind, because you can explain that away of, okay, Deku didn't really want to give it up, because they said, like, early on that the user has to willingly give it up.
Yeah.
And even though he willingly, quote unquote, gave it up to Bakugo, he didn't like truly want to be rid of it because he still wants to be a hero. So one for all is like, oh, okay, well, transfer it to Bakugo for like 10 minutes or something.
Yeah,
he shared for people for like a couple minutes, but it doesn't really leave him because he doesn't truly want to be rid of it. So, okay, you can come up with excuses as to why it stays with him.
Yeah.
Why the fuck does Bakugo have amnesia afterwards?
I no idea. It doesn't even
it doesn't even make sense to do that because he's already knows a secret about One for All.
Yeah, like we can just bring up like, oh, One for All again or something.
You could just say, why don't you can just ask, why don't I have it anymore? And Deku's just like,
Or there's
it's like, why do you need to have him forget having it?
Just to make it even more non-canon, but canon.
That doesn't even make sense to do it that way.
The only reason I can think of is that they couldn't figure out a way how Bakugo, even temporarily utilizing One for All, even for that moment, it's like that would probably I think from their perspective, that would completely change their relationship going forward. That Baku kind of like now he understands what the power that Midoriya has.
I don't think it would though.
And because Bakugo's pretty stubborn, is the thing.
Yeah, it's like he would probably say, "I don't want it anyway because I'm going to beat you with my power."
Yeah. I feel like that's what I thought it was going to be. It was going to be like, I don't want that power anymore. So the only reason I can think of is he has something other planned with him learning something about One for All. Which I mean,
the thing, like I said, it was even last season where it's like, oh, he knows about One for All and how All might pass on his quirk. So it's like. You could have had you either could have just said, okay, Deku didn't really want to give it up, so it stayed with him, and it just kind of helped this one instance, or you could have had Bakugo give it back to Deku.
Yeah, or something. My friend pointed out that, because to pass on, One for All for One, passing on, they have to, eat, eat something, or, ingest a part of their, body. So Deku, or Bakugo specifically, needed to eat Deku's hair, to keep it, and that's why.
It's just a transfer of DNA.
Yeah. They both touch their blood. Yeah, they both touch their bloody hands. So.
Okay.
No, it's all might just plug his hair because it's just the easiest way to do that.
Yeah. So, say for example, if Midoriya was like, I want to give this power to you, whoever it is, and then kissed them, that would also count. Yeah, it's just
Dojin Riders.
Don't but not Deku X Kachan because no.
That is really killer, surprisingly.
That is bad. There's a lot of people.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like the movie's really good until that happens, and I'm just like, what?
Just
status quo. The problem isn't Deku gets to keep it because I don't care about that. We all knew he was going to keep it because status quo's got it.
Yeah.
But it's like, you invented a problem here for no other reason.
Added another problem, too.
Yeah, it's like you invented a problem and then you just made that problem worse.
I think ultimately the fight itself is so satisfying and well done that you can buy that it helps that the cop out. It's like the cop out isn't as big of a you can let it slide. You got to
blow a little bit, but it's still
it broke the flow of the movie, and it's like a gymnast routine where they do everything flawlessly. And then when they're vaulting over the thing, and then they just fall flat on their face at the end. It's like you would have had a perfect 10, but then you just did that one thing at the end that kind of not necessarily ruins the whole thing, but it sticks out the most.
It's like that Simpsons joke where he just sticks to the landing and then just screams.
I think the perfect example would be like doing that super so many different flips, stop, jump, stand, everybody applauses, you take 1 foot forward and then flat on your face. So it's like it's not part of the routine, but it's like people will still be like, ooh, yeah, ooh.
Kinda. Yeah, that's the movie, I guess. Were there any other particular thoughts about this?
I liked it more than Two Heroes. I thought it was a step up. But
it's better than Two Heroes overall, I feel.
Yeah, I think both movies I do think succeed in a way that the light novel series School Briefs also succeeds in, which is basically to do things that the series can't do, whether that's because of the story trajectory that they have or because they don't have time to really just to do these small character moments and the stuff like that. I think that's really where the movies shine, the movies and that School Briefs book shine, is that you can just focus on the characters doing these small things and just having these little interactions between each other, and that they're not really story growth, but they're character growth and just being able to kind of see these characters that you really love and respect kind of just doing what they do, and like that's what I like. It's a lot of it's a combination of the slice of life esque nature that the series does so well with the amazing full blown action that it also does well.
Yeah, it's definitely up there in terms of shonen property movies for sure, just on visuals alone. They still need to figure out the whole status quo as God thing.
Yeah.
Because that's something that Two Heroes has better than Heroes Rising, because Two Heroes fits in perfectly with the canon and story events, because you can just watch season 2, watch the movie, and then go to season 3 and nothing matter, and it's fine. You haven't lost anything by that.
Yeah. Which is why I'm kind of glad it's like the last movie. I think doing that repeatedly would get tiresome.
We don't know that. This movie made a lot of money.
Yeah, I think Horikoshi knows that.
Yeah.
You can't pull a Naruto with this and have it keep doing that.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if we get I don't think we're going to get one next year, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get another one sometime down the
I'd
future.
rather
maybe in the future.
I'd rather them wait until the manga's done and then do like an epilogue movie in a sense.
Yeah, like I don't know what they would do, because I mean,
because there's no place to put another movie right now.
Yeah, like when the movie was first announced, because it was announced at the same time around season 4, what I thought was like, oh, they're going to do something with like they're probably going to be like, oh, Mirio doesn't really get a chance to shine, so like, oh, maybe they'll do something with that and kind of jump like back a little bit, but then they end up jumping forward in time. So
yeah, so
like,
now that they've used that space, there's no place to put another movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they're going to do another movie, make it like a small villain and have it be more about like something that's character driven, I guess.
Yeah, we'll have to see. It's a shonen property, so they're not going to do that.
Yeah, one can dream.
And I would argue that I think that because Two Heroes is very standalone in a sense that you could include it or you can remove it and it doesn't add anything. Well, I think other than that kind of the cop outness of the ending, I do think this movie adds like a lot of like stuff to kind of the overall. And like it doesn't completely like, oh, you don't need to watch this movie in order to understand stuff that goes on in the manga and stuff. But I think it does add some context. Like again,
it's a fun little adventure.
Hawk's is kind of behind the scenes stuff, and they kind of get referenced a bit, so you can kind of see him kind of moving into his old plans. You have like the stuff with One for All, and like how that ends up getting built up a little bit more. You have the League of Villains kind of doing their own thing before they really get going. Then you have stuff like Nine's whole existence being kind of like a prototype to, again, what's going on currently in the manga right now, and like stuff with the Doctor and his whole kind of like master scheme, so to speak. So I think it's like those little things that are kind of like it's appreciative that it's that sense. Yeah, it adds context, but it's like it's not completely necessary. I think that's where the movie like really shines in a way.
Yeah, I think that's more or less about it, unless you guys have any last second things. Mostly because it's a very straightforward movie. There's not a ton to discuss, because you can't really...
Yeah.
We could go scene by scene. It's like, oh, I loved it when this happened, or when this happened, but there's no real need to do that.
Yeah.
It's a good movie, but not a standout.
Yeah.
But as a anime adaptation movie, it's like you're always going to go in with certain like stigmas, just by nature of it, and it's like you want it because does it do the characters well? Does it have good action? Like, is it enjoyable? And I think those three. It's like it does that like super super well.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that's about it for My Hero Academia: Heroes Rising. We'll see if they make another one, but I imagine at least Stefan and I, depending on availability for Jack or Derek for season 4, I guess.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to go through. I know I actually haven't. Well, I mean, because I've read the manga, so I've essentially experienced season 4, but I still got to do some catching up.
You can see the time and budget constraints, considering a lot of the staff for Bones was working on the movie during a lot of the production of this season.
Mm.
And it shows at points.
Yeah, really quickly, I was kind of surprised that because they had pushed back the season 3, like the season 4 release, like a whole year instead of like 6 months that was usually happen. I was like, oh, it's probably because they need to take time because they did the movie and because they had to do Mob Psycho, and then it's like, oh, now they're also doing a second movie as well at the same time. Like, really, you're doing that again? And I was like, yeah, but I think at the very least, like,
anime production.
At the very least, the time and money was due to put to very good use in this. So
yeah,
it's something at least.
Yeah, but we'll save season 4 for season 4 then.
Right.
Yeah.
Got any final things to say?
Nope.
I think I'm good.
Soap. All right.
Sweet.
風はやがて黄金